what really happened to the Oceangate submarine? The no memes version. Well, don't worry, I'll insert a meme here or there because this is a tragedy, but at the end of the day, this is the most perfect tragedy in the world because it's a bunch of billionaires who have all the money in the world still ignoring safety precautions and cutting costs, which is kind of a huge irony.
On June 18th, 2023, Titan, a submersible operated by Oceangate, went missing in the international waters in the North Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Newfoundland, Canada. The submersible was on a
Well, Canada's definitely not gonna help them. They probably have no resources.
tourist expedition to view the wreckage of the RMS Titanic with 5 individuals on board, including the founder and CEO of Oceangate, Stockton Rush. Due to an estimated 3 days of oxygen supply, there was a huge rescue effort by the U.S. Coast Guard and Canada's Coast Guard, which was unsuccessful.
Do you think they resorted to cannibalism at some point? Do you think they already debated, well, who's the first that we gonna eat here, okay? Because they most likely just needed to, like, cook one guy, and by cook I mean raw it, but, you know, still, they probably had that discussion.
Until early on June 22nd, when evidence of the wreckage of the vessel started to emerge, leading to the tragic conclusion that the vessel imploded in the ocean depths and there were no survivors. As an engineer, I'm furious about what happened and the different shortcuts that were taken. We'll go through all of that today. So let's try to figure out exactly what happened and what we can learn from this. I'm Ricky, and this is 2-Bit Da Vinci.
Wow. Engineering stuff. It's always interesting.
Let's start with what we know about the company operating the Titan submersible. Oceangate Incorporated is a privately held U.S. company operating out of Everett, Washington, that provides crewed submersibles for tourism industry and research and exploration. The company was founded in 2009 by Stockton Rush and Guillermo Solin. Stockton Rush wanted to be an astronaut, so he got his commercial pilot license. But because of bad eyesight, he could never be a military pilot. So instead, he moved from San Francisco to Seattle to work at McDonnell Douglas as a flight test engineer for the F-15 Eagle. After attending the launch of Spaceship One in the Mojave Desert in 2004, he decided he didn't want to go up to space as a tourist. He wanted to be like Captain Kirk on the Enterprise. He wanted to explore and pivot his pursuit to undersea exploration. He was married to Wendy Rush, a descendant of Isidore and Ida Strauss, 2 people who actually passed away on the sinking of the Titanic, which ties into the story here today. The tragic events happened during a deep-sea tourism expedition to explore the wreckage of the Titanic, which sunk in the northern Atlantic in 1912. Before we get into the specifics of this particular tragedy, let's put just how difficult deep-sea exploration is into context. It's easy to be in awe of aviation and space exploration because breaking free of gravity and flying through the air seem like such a feat. But in many ways, deep-sea craft are the much greater engineering challenge. It all comes down to pressure. We don't think about air pressure because at sea level, it's just 14.7 pounds per square inch. That pressure is the result of the column of air that reaches above us all the way into outer space. All those air molecules above us pushing down result in that pressure. But water is a much more dense fluid than air. So for every 10 meters or 32.8 feet you dive, the pressure increases by 1 atmosphere or 14.7 psi. The Titanic was sitting on the ocean floor at about 12,500 feet below sea level. The 2 broken parts of the ship, the bow and the stern, are more than 2,600 feet apart and surrounded by debris after over 100 years of being in the bottom of the ocean. The wreckage is 400 miles off the coast of Newfoundland in Canada. You can see here. Let's put this depth into perspective. Imagine laying on your back with a 1 foot by 1 foot board, okay? And how much weight you would feel on that board. At 100 meters, the size of a soccer or football field, we have the pressure of 10 atmospheres or 145 psi, which means on that 1 by 1 foot board, we would feel the weight of 20,880 pounds. That is 4.7 Tesla Model Ys. At 381 meters, 450 feet, we have the height of the Empire State Building in New York City. At this depth, we would feel 37.4 atmospheres of pressure, and that 1 by 1 foot board would feel the weight of 80,000 pounds. At 490 meters, we have the max dive depth of the C class of U.S. Navy submarine. Here we
wait. I want he should actually, you know, display here how much pressure do we actually feel at every point, because is it just like plus, or is it a little bit like a more of a geometrical progression? I didn't catch that.
48.5 atmospheres of pressure. That 1 by 1 foot board would feel the weight of 94,800 pounds. At 828 meters, we have the height of the Burj Khalifa. Here, we'd feel 82 atmospheres. That weight on the board would be 173,500.
Okay, so it seems like it just doubled considering. Oh no, wait, no, it is the. How does this work?
20 pounds. Now, this is around the same depth as the deepest diving submarine in operation today, the Oscar-class submarine in the
that
Russian
we
Navy.
know of.
At 3,800 meters sits the wreckage of the Titanic. Here, the pressures are 376 atmospheres. That 1x1 foot board on our chest would have the weight of 797,000 pounds. The Oceangate Titan was rated for a mass dive depth of about 4,000 meters. Now that might sound insane, but actually it's not even the record for the deepest human beings have been. That honor goes to James Cameron and the Deep Sea Challenger built in Australia in 2012. The Deep Sea Challenger reached the deepest part of the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean, the deepest point on Earth.
I know about this one, by the way.
11,000 meters or 36,000 feet.
Yeah.
Here, we'd feel 1,090 atmospheres of pressure, and that 1x1 foot board would have the weight of...
Also, fun fact, you can't just, just go whoop down. No. If you do that, you die from the pressure change to your body because you can't actually sustain that. You need to go down slowly, I don't exactly remember the numbers, but you need to go down X. Literally wait for a while, go down more, and it has something to do with the oxygen in our blood or something like that. I don't remember this exactly, but if you descend too rapidly or ascend too rapidly, you're 100% dead. There's literally nothing to be done about that. It's called some kind of, what was it? Oxygen sickness or something like that. O2 sickness. I don't remember, but that's a pretty interesting thing. It takes an actual very, very long time to get down to down in this level just because of the wait time.
2.3 million pounds on it. Compare that to the difference in pressure of an airplane at cruising altitude of 36,000 feet, where outside the pressure might be 3 psi and on the inside between 10 and 12.
Yeah.
And that hopefully puts in perspective why more people have been to space than have been into the deepest parts of our oceans. Now let's talk about the red flags that plagued Oceangate from the get-go. By the way, Oceangate just sounds like a walking scandal ready to happen.
Yeah,
first, the design limitations of the Titan required that the hatch be bolted down by 17 to 18 bolts from the outside. This means there's no way for the passengers inside to open the hatch. They'd have to rely on ground crews to open it. Now,
I mean, at that depth, it literally doesn't matter. Like, if you open the hatch, you're 100% gone anyway. So, it's like, pick your poison.
Understandable, because these deep sea vessels have to be incredibly tight. They have to be very strong. The water seals have to hold, and that's all complicated. But I think this shows you why it's really important to have backup systems and have some sort of an explosive detonation cord you can pull to blow the hatch in the event that the craft surfaced and no one found it. And that was actually one of the fears early on, is that the vessel could actually surface and be at the surface somewhere along the Atlantic unfound and still die from suffocating because they couldn't open the hatch and the air could run out.
Dude,
the Titan also didn't have GPS or other navigational instruments on board, and it didn't have
a billionaire doesn't become a billionaire by not cutting corners, okay? If there's corners to be cut, there's corners to be cut, my dude. Every penny saved is closer to him becoming a multi-billionaire, okay? Dude, I just can't. No, but seriously. They're billionaires. They're literally billionaires. All of them could literally fund... Everyone who goes on this stuff can literally just make their own submarine in a matter of probably a year and do it like that. And don't cut corners. But no, all of them cut corners. This is so insane.
The locator beacon either, like a black box on an aircraft. Most subs use GPS for near-surface navigation, which doesn't work in deeper waters. In deeper waters, they use dead reckoning course information obtained by the ship's gyro compass, measured speed, and estimates of local ocean currents. They also rely on inertial navigation systems, which is an estimated position source utilizing acceleration, deceleration, pitch, and roll from the computers that transmit this data. The Titan, in contrast, appeared to rely only on data provided by the surface support vessel. In 2019, Oceangate published a blog post explaining why the Titan was not...
By the way, the fact that this is so unsafe and so clearly cut corners, it's like, okay, how about you just like put a cable to it, okay? Attach a cable to it, tug 2 times and they get gotten out, you know? Why wasn't even that a consideration? There probably was actually a reason for it, but, you know, I want to know the answer to that, because I'm not sure. Maybe it's a legit thing. I mean, probably sounds stupid to people who actually understand this stuff, but for me, that's a serious question. I'm sure for a lot of people, that's a question. Why not just add some kind of cord that goes along with it? See, seems so easy and probably not even expensive.
Certified by any ship authority, which is a huge red flag. Oceangate stated, the vast majority of marine and aviation accidents are actually a result of operator error, not mechanical failure, and argued that classification focused solely on the physical state of the vessel and not the corporate actions, which are characterized as a constant committed effort and a focused corporate culture of maintaining high-level operational safety.
Yo!
That sounds like absolute bullshit to me.
Yeah, that sounds so stupid.
Journalist David Progue, who rode on the Titan to view the Titanic in 2022, noted during his expedition, the surface support vessel lost track of the Titan for about 4 to 5 hours, and mentioned that adding a locator beacon was actually discussed during this event. They could still send short text to the sub, but they had no idea where it was. It was quiet and very tense, he says, and they shut off the ship's internet to keep us from tweeting. Oh my god, that is terrifying.
And they're not even at the best spot, probably.
The craft was also controlled by a video game controller, which sounds like some cool Silicon Valley way of thinking.
That's right. To be a part of the Oceangate crew, you need potentially some experience at diving. Hopefully you know how to swim, but you need to be a professional at Super Mario. That's right, boys. Unless you're a competitive Mario player, you're not getting this job, baby. We here at Oceangate, we have standards, and most of them are sadly tied to Mario, and some kind of bridge builder simulator on Steam for $5 most likely at this rate.
Beanbag chairs and break rooms, but it's downright stupid. Military spec products go through incredible rigorous testing, making them safe in all operating environments. For example, as expensive as Apple's Vision Pro headset is at $3,500, it is downright cheap compared to the $400,000 that it costs to get a helmet for the F-35 fighter jet. And the reason why, well, lower volumes, of course, but also because they have to go through unbelievable vibration testings to make sure the welds will all hold up, make sure that the higher levels of radiation at 40 to 50,000 feet won't do any damage long term, and to make sure absolute reliability. Now let's talk about how we got to the Titan. Oceangate started by purchasing Antipodes, which is a submersible back in 2012, which was their first test bed for testing and learning about this entire endeavor. Next, they built Cyclops 1, which is in collaboration with University of Washington's Applied Physics.
Cyclops 1 is such a terrible name. Oh my god, what's wrong with you people?
Laboratory. And this was a deeper sea vessel capable of reaching a max depth of 500 meters. Still nowhere near deep enough for the Titanic, but this was their next step and their next iteration. In the early design, the hull was made of carbon fiber, and the whole submersible would dive vertically with pivoting seats to ensure the passengers remained upright. Now, it was said that Boeing worked with Oceangate and the University of Washington on their initial design analysis, but we'll get back to that in a second, because there's a little bit more to that story. Finally, they would arrive at the Titan, their final product that would actually be rated for 4,000 meters. One of the key takeaways about the Titan is that this is a carbon fiber and titanium hulled submersible. Now, this is really exotic in the world of materials. We've been using high-strength steel, aluminum for a long time, and we have data, engineering data on how they fail and what to look for and test methodologies. But carbon fiber is still quite exotic. In fact, any car you've ever driven probably doesn't have much carbon fiber in it. The only exception...
Is that true, though? I kind of feel like that's a little bit not true, because I have heard about these technologies for, I don't know, like 10 years at this point, at the bare minimum, you know, and it probably goes way before that. I'm pretty sure we already have a lot of data. Maybe not, you know, ocean floor level data on this stuff, but we definitely have a lot of data on this type of things.
Exceptions are really, really high-end supercars, or even in the case of aviation, more recently, with the Boeing Dreamliner. But before that, we've always used aluminum and titanium and other materials like that. So just generally, there's less known about it, and it's also really difficult to make sure that you get it right. Oceangate signed a contract with Spencer Composites in January 2017 for the carbon composite cylinder. This was the same company that built the composite pressure hull for the single-person deep flight Challenger for Steve Fossett. After Fossett passed away,
it's the
Deep
Virgin
Flight Challenger
Company
was acquired by Richard Branson's Virgin Oceanic, which had announced
Okay.
plans to conduct a series of 5 dives to the deepest points of the ocean. But Deep Flight refused to endorse the plan as the craft had been
Yo, Richard Branson is such a madman, honestly. He's a billionaire, and he's a UK billionaire, so you know there's definitely some screws loose there. He just does the wildest stuff constantly without absolutely no regret. Man, he has a couple of stocks that go like literally like this. Yeah, that's how unpredictable everything that man touches becomes. It's absolutely insane.
designed to dive only once. This is important. We'll get back to this in a second. In a statement, they said the problem is the strength of the Deep Flight Challenger does decrease after each dive. It's strongest on the first dive,
That's
said
bad.
Adam Wright, the firm's president. It was designed to set the record, dive to the deeps, and then be retired as an exhibit in the Smithsonian. This is a really crucial part because sometimes in engineering, what it comes down to is the operational lifetime and understanding it. And this might have been at play here. And by the way,
Wow.
I tried to go to oceangate.com to get a little bit more information, and I noticed that their site was taken down on June 22nd.
That's great.
So
That's
after the
great.
disappearance of the Titan in 2023, the University of Washington stated that APL, their Applied Physics Laboratory, had no involvement in design, engineering, or testing of the Titan submersible.
But
The
obviously,
Boeing spokesperson also said that
obviously.
Boeing was not a partner on the Titan and did not design or
Obviously.
build it. A NASA spokesperson said that NASA's Marshall
By the way, you know why they can actually do this and get away with it? First of all, is the fact, does anyone even notice it? Second of all, if so, let's imagine this: you make a company and you advertise that you are doing this with Tesla's engineers, for example. That's like a big deal in most places, right? Well, if Tesla hears news about this, they're not suing you. They're literally first sending you a letter saying, "Hey, we never did this. Remove the advertisement." And they go, "Okay," and that's it. People don't get sued for this type of stuff, okay? There's literally there is very minimum potential drawback against what you can gain from falsely advertising that you have worked with someone. You know, when you're going to a new job, people don't actually, a lot of cases, check your previous experiences. They might check the last experience, but, you know, if the previous to that experience is like 10 years old, they're not going to call that company. No one in that company most likely is going to know at that point who you no longer are. And so this is that thing. In a lot of cases, you know, these companies deal with, advertise that they are working with like NASA and whatnot, but they're not actually doing it. And if NASA finds this out, they're like, "Oh, can you like remove it, or we're gonna have to sue you?" And they're like, "Sure, chief." And they add someone instead of NASA there, and no one cares. What a great time to be alive, huh?
Space Flight Center had a Space Act agreement with Oceangate, but did not conduct testing and manufacturing via its workforce or facilities. Basically, all of these partnerships that they had are now being revealed that they were not really partnerships. This is a classic example of a company trying to get credibility by partnering with NASA. How good does that sound? But what exactly they did with NASA isn't really well understood. It could have just been as simple as, "Hey, can we rent out a little bit of space over in this corner of your facility?" This is probably the most infuriating for me as an engineer. David Lockridge, the Oceangate Director of Marine Operations, filed a quality control report in January 2018, stating that no non-destructive testing, or NDI, of the carbon fiber hull had taken place to check for voids or delaminations in the carbon fiber layup that could compromise the hull's strength. NDI
if I'm not mistaken, a void is something that pretty much just instantaneously can actually wreck the sub in an instant. A void, I think, has something to do with pressure in this situation. Not 100% sure, but voids are really, really dangerous potentially, you know? And that's kind of like a more basic of a check, as much as I understand. I could be wrong, but, you know, it wouldn't... Honestly, does it surprise you that they would not do that? Yeah.
Non-destructive investigation, NDT, non-destructive testing, is a way of checking something to make sure that it's safe without actually breaking it apart. Because really the best way to check if something is safe is to cut it in half, break it, and go, yep, it's safe. But of course, you've destroyed the product. So NDT is something that engineers lean on all the time to make sure things are safe. And in the world of carbon fiber, it's that much more difficult because carbon fiber doesn't bend or yield or get grooves and cracks the way other materials do. It requires a lot of information and insight. Lockridge was told that Oceangate would rely on the real-time acoustic monitoring system, which he felt would not warn the crew of potential failure with sufficient time to safely abort the mission and evacuate. The day after he filed his report, he was summoned to a meeting in which he was told the acrylic window that you look out of was only rated for 1,300 meters because Oceangate was not fully designed of a window rated for 4,000 meters. In that meeting, he reiterated his concerns and added that he would refuse to allow crew testing without a hull scan. Lockridge was dismissed from his position as a result. Oceangate filed a lawsuit against Lockridge that June, accusing him of improperly sharing proprietary trade secrets and fraudulently manufacturing a reason to get rid of him.
Nice.
This suit was settled in November 2018. I'm sure it was all sealed off, and we'll never know exactly what was.
Yeah, essentially, he just got sued, so this doesn't become a big deal. Yeah. The fake company is more likely to sue you than people are more likely to sue the fake company. Let that just sink in for a moment. What kind of world we live in?
Agreed upon, but that is absolutely terrifying. During a human-piloted descent on December 10th, 2018, Stockton Rush used the vertical thrusters to overcome unexpected positive buoyancy when descending past 10,000 feet. These submersibles are like a balloon with air inside, right? So it's hard for them to dive. And so they have different ways and ballast systems to be able to accomplish that. But for whatever reason, around 10,000 feet, he had to use vertical thrusters to continue his descent. And when this happened, it caused interference with the communication systems between spinning propellers, the disturbance in the wake of the water coming off those propellers and everything else. They lost contact for 1 hour. Now, Rush was thrilled to call himself the second person to solo dive to 13,000 feet after James Cameron. But if that was me, I would be terrified. I would come back and figure out what on earth happened with the comms and what can we do? Can we change the frequency? Can we have a backup system? Can we have a tether? Whatever has to happen to never let that happen again. And we know it happened again because of that report from the reporter. After these tests were completed in January 2020, the hull of the Titan began showing signs of cyclical fatigue, and the craft was derated to 3,000 meters. Now, the hull was repaired and again rated again for 4,000 meters of diving depth, but by who?
Can you actually just repair it like that? Because those... So there's this neat little thing called micro cracks that no one usually pays attention to because you literally can't see them with their eyes. But those things are actually serious business, you know? When we're talking about something that needs to actually withstand, micro cracks are a deal breaker, you know? That puts everything at risk. And the idea that they just fixed it? Some magically how? Yeah, that sounds sus.
And was everything done properly? It's impossible to know.
Yeah.
I decided to make this video because I think we're at the precipice of a new age of exotic tourism and exploration, between going to the space to go to the moon, low Earth orbit, or deep sea diving. We're at the edge of seeing more of this. Wealthier people, the people that were involved in this particular incident, always want to have that next thing. And so if we're going to do this, it's important to realize just how unsafe this can be. Unlike commercial aviation, there are no regulatory boards involved here. This is international water. The company did have to register the parent vessel that takes people from Canada, right? So that had to be registered. But what happens out in open waters is not very highly regulated. This is a really tough story for me because as an engineer, I do love ambition. I mean, building your own vessel, carbon fiber, 5 inches thick, it sounds cool. But as an engineer, I also realize how important safety measures and protocols are. Aviation is a perfect example. If you ever hop on an airplane, you cannot imagine how safe you are because of all the people involved, from company members like Boeing and Airbus personnel, engineering.
Fun fact, planes are not actually built to be sturdy. They actually move quite a lot. So, you know, if you're like experiencing a lot of turbulence or whatever, if you look out the window, there's a chance that the wing's going like this. Yeah, well, have fun. Have fun sitting next to the window next time, my boy. Oh, what a great experience.
Test officials all the way to the FAA and other regulatory approval bodies that make sure every little thing is regulated and controlled. There is none of that going on here. One of the first things to realize about an implosion of the vessel is that there was probably not a lot of suffering. The people probably just died instantly.
Yep.
We mentioned how much weight you would feel at these depths.
Is he gonna show it?
You would pretty much just...
Nah, he's not showing it. But essentially, like, being crushed by pressure from the outside, there's a really cool video of empty tanker. And there's a pressure difference in it for some reason. Like, you know, it's an oil tanker or something like that. The railway one, by the way, I mean, by tanker. And, you know, it's like this tube. And at one moment, it literally just... That's it. That's it. In an instant. It just collapses in on itself. So that he's saying that most likely happened here. Yeah, there's no suffering in that. There's just a lot of panic. And potentially you hear some kind of strange, funky noise.
Crushed. So what happened is they built a vessel which was in and of itself pretty impressive. The carbon fiber layup, the composite structure, titanium. This was an exotic craft. And it had a viewing window to go see the Titanic. These are things that human beings could not do before. But the problem is every craft, every vessel, every engineering device has an operational lifetime. Now, the way engineers do this is by testing something and figuring out how many cycles can we hit this with before problems start to emerge. And then they add a safety factor. For example, your car will work almost forever. There's no pressure involved. It's just atmospheric pressures at sea level, right? Now, if it rusts and things, that could change the equation.
Yeah, that's
But
different.
your car is fine. How about aircraft? Aircraft are pressurized and depressurized, pressurized, depressurized, right? And you can't really inspect every little nook and cranny. So what engineers figured out is if we're going to build this out of aluminum, if we're going to build it from carbon fiber, we have to do a test every 1,000 hours, 500 hours, whatever the case might be. A complete overhaul where they tear down the wall panels and inspect, and they'll actually get out and check for any cracks and other impurities and imperfections, because any crack or any little divot can be a stress concentration point where it'll start to impound and fail.
Yep.
Then finally they'll say at this many hours, 20,000 flat hours, whatever the number might be, the aircraft is retired. That doesn't mean it's going to fall apart, but we know we tested it for millions of hours and nothing bad will happen in this window, and that is the operational window. Odds are a plane could probably fly for thousands of more flights after that, but we don't want to do that. That is the operational lifetime. What was the operational lifetime of the Titan? Was it ever established?
Was it less than an Apple product?
They were not doing NDIs or NDTs, non-destructive testing, to see what was happening to the carbon fiber. Again, carbon fiber is a mesh weave that is laid in alternating patterns and then glued up. It is incredibly strong and incredibly impressive as an engineering material, but it's equally not as well studied. We have 100 years of history and experience with high-strength steel and aluminum and other materials, but this is a new frontier. And that's why this is so important to cover. New frontiers are exciting. They're sexy. They're glamorous, right? Air travel. We're on the brink of space tourism.
I guess.
Rich people can buy a ticket to go up and tour around the moon, have a nice little catered lunch, and come home. Whenever we have new frontiers, we have unknowns. That's what makes it a frontier. There's not a playbook. And when you have to build vessels able to withstand the pressures of the ocean's deep, deep waters, there's a lot that is unknown. And that's why we don't have commercial versions of this. I think this vessel just had some sort of a crumple or some defect or deformation. Something was happening over a couple of cycles. I mean, they did successfully go down and come back three times, and at that fourth time they crumpled. Honestly, I don't
That's not that impressive, I think.
think any vessel that goes to the Mariana Trench or 12,000 feet in the Atlantic should have a life more than a couple of cycles. And I think what they were trying to do, I think Stockton Rush was trying to make these tickets affordable, right? Now they start.
Bruh, you're selling shit to millionaires and billionaires. Affordability is not exactly the thing that people should care about. Like, the more glamorous you probably make, the bigger chance that we can get Bezos and Bill Gates in that sub, and then intentionally lose it. Now that's the big play.
Started at $125,000, double that by the time these guys went on at $250,000.
And Soros can be the pilot.
$250,000 sounds like a ton of money. The real price for this probably should have been $1 million, 1.5. That allows you to replace the vessel every so often, or to do complete disruptive testing to replace parts. There's a whole slew of things that have to happen. But I think in the interest of trying to be affordable, being on the ship yourself, the prestige of your reputation, trying to build a brand, trying to build a company.
Well, they tried, and now there's nothing left to build.
They took all kinds of shortcuts and did things they do not understand. And I'll be honest with you, we know more about space than we do our deep oceans or the deep earth. These are just really hard environments to get to.
Admittedly, the James Webb Telescope is literally kind of breaking everything we understand about the universe currently. So maybe it's not actually that much currently, you know? Oh, there's a lot of things like questionable. Is the Big Bang actually real? Did it happen? Oh, there's a lot of news that it didn't happen. There's also a lot of news that potentially there's multiple Big Bangs happening. Yeah. You know, stuff like that. Hey, what's that over there? Well, that's a galaxy. That's a galaxy? How is it over there? That should only be possible in that direction because that's not old enough to make that stuff. Well, how about that? Yeah, but they're finding out so many things in space. It's currently insane.
This is tragic. You know, I was an optimist. I was hoping that we would find them somewhere and that this would all kind of be a learning lesson without loss of life. It didn't work out that way. But in engineering, we have to always learn from our mistakes. If you're a believer in freedom and these people took the risk, they knew what they were doing. I do agree with that. I'm a believer of freedom and taking your own risk or taking your own choices.
But I guess.
Did they fully understand what this vessel was? Was it fully known? Were the risks
probably
really
not
well known to them?
Nope.
Probably not. So those are things that we can try to improve upon.
Well, that was the 2-bit Da Vinci video. Good stuff. A lot of engineering stuff and smart things. You know, arguably how much you like smart things, I don't know. But, you know, very, very interesting stuff. Anyway, this was Kuzer Sinsen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.